The brew is on. You've dialed up Ion and Jersey Joe right here, live coming to you direct to your desktop, social media device, or however you're watching us. It's time to chat once again with the bros of the brew. Grab a beer, and Joel's over there not liking. What is that? What just happened over there?
You know when you get something at like a really shitty convenience store,
Mm-hmm.
and there's like shit on top of the can on the part you're about to put in your mouth, and you don't really know what it is. It's like orange and crusty, and you don't know if it came out of a homeless person's dick. That's kind of what's happening to me right now.
That is a beer failure right there. Oh, don't drink that if that thing is contaminated like that.
Well,
look,
no,
we're not here to talk.
It still has alcohol. I mean, this is still a beer.
Well,
So
all right.
there's no way I'm gonna not drink it. It's just gross. That's all.
Well, you work on that while I chat with our audience a little bit about what the subject is of this episode of The Brew, because out on social media recently, I put out the question, which is the faster growing sport in America, hockey or soccer? Interesting question, and we have interesting results here, but a little later on, and we got your live tweets too that came up here, and those of you watching live right now, hit us up and tell us, what do you think's better, hockey or soccer, and which one is faster growing in the United States? U.S., mind you, not Canada and other countries, right here in the good old U.S. of A, because it's different overseas. And Joel, we'll go to you first. As always, what do you think is a faster growing sport in America, hockey or soccer?
Hockey. I think it has to do with NBC putting Hockey Night in America big time, like up the numbers. Like they were half of what they are last year. Not only that, but the Vegas Golden Knights kind of burst onto the scene. A lot of new Golden Knights fans, not just here in Vegas, but nationwide. I'm sure you have some shit you can attest to for that.
Yeah. I agree with you on that one. I think that hockey is the faster growing sport in America, and the reason why, just like you said, is because it's on NBC Sports. And also looking at NBC, they air it more on the network in prime time, even during the week, especially during the Stanley Cup playoffs. Whereas before, you would only pretty much find it on like NBC Sports, or even ABC used to carry it on the weekends, Fox Sports. Now it's made it onto the Peacock Network, America's #1 primetime network, by the way. And you know what? It's put the game into mainstream, and the ratings here in New York are doing pretty well too for that. So you can't argue with that. The ratings are there for it. But counterpoint, Fox Network is now airing soccer a lot. They've aired a couple games in prime time and more so on the weekend. So Fox Network themselves is doubling down on soccer. So those numbers, I think, are growing too because of that. You can thank Fox for the soccer exposure.
I would like to thank both networks because both sports are f***ing awesome. Mm-hmm. But I would just personally say, after working with both networks as well, I think that hockey's doing a little bit better.
So you're a bigger hockey fan than soccer fan, though, right?
Well, that's subjective. That's a subjective question. Yes, I am. But I'm also speaking objectively when you ask me the original question, and that is that I still think hockey is growing a little bit more.
Right, I do too. I just want to get that out there so our fans know, and I think just following us on social media, they know that we love baseball, #1, but definitely we're big hockey fans too. So I have to tell you though, I like going to soccer games. I've been to quite a few. I don't really watch it on television that much, but going to the live games, that's a whole special atmosphere there that, maybe a hockey live is good too, but soccer fans get into it 10,000 times more than hockey fans do.
I don't know if that's true down here.
Okay.
I mean, I went to the home opener for the Vegas Golden Knights, and you couldn't hear the whistle. I was sitting all the way up at the top. You couldn't hear the whistle on the ice. Like, we couldn't hear next to each other, which is like a playoff atmosphere of a regular sport. If you go to an actual, foreign country and go to a soccer match, now that's a different story. But we're just talking about here in America, and that's what the question is aimed toward. And so for that reason, I have to say hockey.
Yeah, if we were talking globally, of course the answer would be soccer. Soccer is the world sport. And I on the record, I like to say I've never been to a major league soccer stadium. I've been to the Red Bulls here, and that when you're part of that atmosphere, it is electric. Every game there is exciting like that. I've been to a lot of hockey games here in New York, in Pittsburgh, in Vegas, and the atmosphere is really electric. But definitely during opening games, playoff games, but regular games, I mean, they can get into it, but only at critical times. Whereas soccer fans, they sell certain tickets, cheering sections only, because those fans just go nuts most of the time. And also, they really love to drink too. They definitely are not. They're not shy with the booze, at least at the Red Bull Stadium here in Jersey.
That's true of even out here with the Las Vegas Lights. They're doing really well in ticket sales. Mm-hmm. And the one game that I went to for that shit was crazy too. So. Really good atmosphere, but you're asking me, and I have a lot of Vegas only answers for both of these sports. Really,
it's okay. Well, that's why I put this question out, because it's hard to determine, but I did a little investigation. I'll have some results for that in a minute. Let's take a couple of your comments right now, those of you watching, and hit us up live, those of you watching. But Rock for Guitar writes in and says, hockey hasn't grown much in many years. Soccer is finally taking off in the USA. He is right that soccer is taking off. It's just, what we commented on. And it's growing, but I still think in general, hockey is a more visible and known sport to Americans than soccer.
Well, that you have to take that into question, too, when you're answering this. Mm-hmm. Because, yeah, hockey's more established. It's one of the big four.
Right.
We're talking about worldwide, soccer far and away. But in America, we have to go from, okay, one of them's already established, and one of them's probably number 5. Like, honestly, MLS is probably the next closest one into getting into mainstream. So they're coming from different starting points in the race. But I still would stick with my original answer.
That's a very important point, because hockey has been around here in America a lot longer. It's definitely an older sport than, soccer globally is an older sport, but here in America, soccer has to work its way out almost, whereas hockey is more established. Let's take more of your comments right now, because Cody United writes in and says, soccer has definitely grown in popularity, but it's as exciting as watching a high school golfing competition. Interesting, because I think both sports, from an excitement level, have their pluses and minuses. Soccer, though, one thing I don't like about it is sometimes you can end in a pretty much tie, whereas hockey, at least you'll get to that shootout, and you usually get a winner.
This is true, even though hockey just recently changed that. Mm-hmm. That's definitely true. And the more that I learn about both sports, the more I like them as well. So mm-hmm. I feel like most people would probably be like that if they watch them a little bit more. And the whole spotlight on a national stage, like we mentioned earlier with Fox and NBC, I feel like more people are going to get into them because they can watch them and get into the technique a little bit. Yeah. But you really have to know the technique of soccer in order to get into it more.
The also thing I'm going to say about that is, as more immigrants from other countries move into America, they're bringing the love of soccer with them, especially like here in this, in the New York City area. So, like bars now are actually showing soccer games in a weekend, where as I would say 5 years ago, that would be something that was really like a small niche kind of thing here. Has that happened in Vegas yet, where it's like a soccer weekend, especially like when the World Cup is on?
Well, when the World Cup's on, it's everywhere, period. But including every sports bar here.
Yeah.
I don't notice it on sports bars regularly, but there's no, like you just said, a lot of immigration. Mm-hmm. That could definitely change, and if it does, that would be cool. I would like to see more diversity on the TV in terms of sports. I love that everywhere has football, basketball, baseball, hockey. That's mm-hmm. all fun. If there's a fit TV and it's on soccer, cool. That's one more thing that everybody can tune into and learn from.
That's one thing. Like Fox Network aired the World Cup this year and had record viewers. Telemundo this year for the first time had their biggest viewership ever for the World Cup. So those numbers are growing, but that was just for the World Cup only. It wasn't for a regular, just random, weekend game during the week game, which are still kind of regulated to the weekends a little bit, whereas at least hockey every once in a while gets on during the week on NBC. So that's why I was talking about the ratings thing, but definitely viewership-wise on air, those numbers are going up. That's a fact. Let's take a viewer comment right now, because Starman writes in and he says, soccer is boring. They fake being hurt to stop the clock. I'm not the biggest hockey fan either, but they don't hire a bunch of actors. Ooh, now that is one of my beefs about.
Do you have a real avatar yet? Because you obviously don't have a real name.
No, not yet. But that's one of my beefs about it, though, where they do just kind of, I need to delay the clock. Let me, lay down on the field for a bit. But a hockey player, look at Marc-Andre Fleury. Most of the teeth in a guy's mouth aren't even his real teeth because he got them busted in. But hockey players will get out there and still, keep being competitive, which I think is what's going to make the sport a little bit different to fans. If you want more, hardcore, harder athletes, then hockey is definitely the sport for you, whereas soccer, more of a running game kind of thing.
Yeah, the acting thing is definitely not going to appeal as much to a casual fan.
Right. Well, I put the poll out on social media, and I asked you guys what you thought. What's the faster growing sport in the U.S.? And survey said 60% hockey, 40% said soccer. So, Joel, our followers on social media agree that hockey is the answer. I'm not surprised by that.
I'm just glad that the poll is kind of close, like it's comparable, because it means that people are tuning in enough to mm-hmm. either agree with one or the other, or maybe they've watched both and they can actually make an assert. I guess like an educated answer. Hopefully, that's what we're talking about here. Hopefully it's not just people who only watch soccer and have their whole life and just watch hockey and have their whole life, but we're actually getting some educated answers on this.
I did a little research for this web show, and I found a Forbes magazine article, and they actually went and polled Americans and asked them what their favorite sport is. And these 100 random Americans, and 37% said football, 11% said basketball. Baseball was third with only 9%. I was shocked. And number 4, 7%, was actually soccer. Hockey is fifth with 4%. So on this random poll, and it was all ages, it wasn't just a specific age group, that soccer is number 4 in America and is only 2 points behind baseball. And even the crazier thing about this, when they took the same poll 3 years ago, soccer and hockey were actually tied. In fact, most of the pro sports in America have lost points in this poll, but hockey and soccer actually had the biggest growth with a 4% growth. I mean, that poll right there of 100 random Americans, that said a lot to me. I was shocked that soccer is now number 4, more popular than hockey, according to that.
Well, 100, first of all, 100 is not a big sample size. I want to know where they took this poll. They need more people. They need to have like a giant chunk. Yeah. You can't ask 4 Hicks in Montana who their favorite sport is.
Yeah.
You can't ask 4 people who don't speak English in Miami what their favorite sport is. You got to go through a gigantic fucking sample size before you have a definitive answer.
Yeah, it's interesting because I have it right here, and it doesn't say where they took this. I mean, maybe they did somewhere else, but it just says that they basically had like a random sample of Americans. So, and they break it down too by age groups a little bit later on. But you know, like between 18 and 34, for example, they're saying soccer fans are up by 15%. So, I don't know. I mean, soccer. I could see that skewing younger with the younger generation than with an older population. That I would agree with.
Younger population, I would say, for any sport that's really quick. Basketball and hockey definitely have the edge. Baseball and football are probably at the biggest disadvantage, really, because there's so much stop and start.
Mm-hmm.
But younger people, shorter attention span. We got 6-second commercials now coming up. I don't see that as being a positive thing. I can see that as being a big positive thing for hockey, not so much soccer.
Yeah. Interesting result for the poll there. And my final thought is, too, the only thing, like we were talking about how hockey fixed it so there isn't a tie. Like, I went to the Red Bulls game here last year, and I paid money to go see a game, then ended up in a 0-0 tie. So there actually was, like, no point of even going to the game, where at least hockey, you get some type of, like, answer. And I think that's going to also play into what people like, because they don't want to watch a game that ends up being 0-0 with a chance of, like, it meaning nothing. That's kind of what happened in this case.
Bold prediction, within 100 years, they'll change that shit.
Well, hey, one thing that you do want to like is this show, so click that like and subscribe button down below. Don't miss any more episodes of this. And on next Thursday's Get Back with Jersey Joe, I'm going to take you inside the world of Candytopia. It's a museum of candy here in New York City, and it's everything from interactive installations to candy art, and you'll even get to see what the hell happened when I jump into a pool of marshmallows. And yes, I almost drowned. You'll get to see that crazy video. That's Thursday on Kick It Back with Jersey Joe. So this is the first time ever we have a Brew update. It's a follow-up on our web show from last week. We talked about what would you do if you won the lottery. Our friend Rockford Guitar wrote in, and he said that he would do everything it would take to stop the world of social media. Well, he wrote me over the weekend and said he was inspired by our show, and he decided to go ahead and buy a lottery ticket. Well, guess what happened? Rockford Guitar hit the lottery. He actually became a winner on the lottery ticket. So I asked him, I said, well, how much did you win? He wouldn't tell me, but he did send me this check right here. And this little piece that he shows me, he cut off the dollar amount, but it was enough to get a check from the state of New Jersey lottery, which means that it was much more than they would actually pay you out in a convenience store if you won. So he at least won $500,000. And he did tell me, however, that he has to pay taxes on it. So congratulations to Rockford Guitar for hitting the lottery. Joel, I guess you could say it's thanks to the Brew. We apparently are changing lives.
Congratulations to that guy, though. I mean, good for him.
Yeah, I'm blown away. So look, we're glad we're doing good things here each and every week. Jersey Joe here, Ion on the Box. Thanks for watching. We're running along this episode. Like we always tell you, we'll see you next time.